Today we're going to talk about group riding. Welcome back to the channel, Riding Free Nation. What's up? It's Chef. The weather is beautiful. I'm not working today, so we're out riding. Warm weather is back, kind of. It is March. Daytona has officially come and gone, and that really kicks off the riding season for most people, especially in the south. My folks to the north probably still have a few more weeks of that crappy white stuff. I know there's been some intermittently nice weather going on, so I hope you all been able to get out and ride. So with the weather coming back, I've already seen a ton of posts on group rides, benefit rides, and it is that time of year where people are planning, got stuff on the schedule, and are ready to get out and have some fun. So I'm gonna do a little refresher, knock the rust off for some of you, or maybe give you some pointers from my experience in doing group rides. Now, I have done a lot of group rides, big benefit rides, and I will tell you they are a lot of fun. However, I also have seen situations where they can also be a little dangerous. So we're going to talk about some things to help you out. So, top 10 things on the list of tips for you when you're out group riding. Okay, so number one on the list is know what kind of event that you're going to, or group ride that you're going to. Are you going to a large group ride or a smaller group ride? That makes a difference to me in kind of how I choose to do things, what my thought process is, because large group rides obviously have a lot of people, and in that group of people you never know who you're riding with. So I kind of do a little bit of research. If I'm going to go to a large like benefit ride or an event ride for a certain cause, I always check some things out ahead of time and get as much information as I can. If you're going to a smaller group ride, obviously you have less concerns, and you know, if you're just riding some friends, you have less worry about going to the event, you know, where it's going, what kind of ride that it is. Now, as a general rule, when you go and ride as a group versus a single rider, you decrease your chances of getting in an accident by 50% when you have more riders. And there's like a calculation, it's 50% per rider to some degree. But you know, more people can see you. You are a larger profile on the road versus a solo rider, so your chances are less. So you got to know, like I said, what kind of ride that you're going on, and kind of think ahead, and I'll get into some of those things as we go further down this list. All right, number 2 on the list, if you are going to a large group ride, a big event ride, charity ride, always has a good turnout, I would plan on getting there early, and I'll explain. If you end up arriving to a big event like that later on, number one, you kind of miss some of the fun, camaraderie, fellowship, meeting new people that you get if you get there early, okay? Number 2, fat kid point is if most of them meet early in the morning, they usually have some kind of breakfast, so you can get a, you know, donut or a biscuit or whatever if you go. And I'm a fat kid, so I always appreciate that. But the most important reason why you should go early is to line up in the line and stage where you can get to the front. Reason being, number 3, the rubber band effect when you go on a ride. It never fails. I've been on a ton of group rides, and it never fails. The group ride will leave, and it doesn't matter who's leading the ride, it always happens. You will have a rubber band effect. As the ride leaves, people are getting on their motorcycles, and you know, you have this long line of bikes, and you're always going to have this rubber band effect. So you're going to start out really tight, and the person leading the ride tries to get the ride ahead and gain a little room, and then people spread out. And the rubber band effect sucks, because if you have a big group ride, it allows cars, if you do not have a blocked route, it allows cars to enter into your ride, which is super dangerous. And you also got to play catch up, which, yes, sometimes is fun when you got to rip to get down the road. I have literally been on a group ride where the rubber band effect was so bad that there were significant gaps where at times you're doing literally 100 miles an hour to try to catch back up to the ride, and it's just difficult. Not to mention the fact that when you go fast to try to catch back up, when you finally catch back up to the group, you end up slowing down rapidly, and like I said, that becomes kind of a dangerous situation. All right, number 4 on the list goes along with getting there early and the reasons why. And I think it is important to know who you are riding with, next to, in front of. Kind of gives you an opportunity to scope some things out. If I go to group rides, usually I go with some friends or club brothers, and I'm usually stacked in with them, which is always a good thing because I ride with them all the time. We know how we ride together, we know formation, we know our hand signals, so those things are always easier when you know who you're riding with. If you are new to like the biker community and you just start going to these things, like I said, always a good idea to get there early. Gives you an opportunity to meet people, chat some people up when you are next to them in line, kind of get a feel for how things are, and it does allow you time to escape, if you will, if you are riding, next to somebody who may be inexperienced. Which brings me to number 5 on the list. Is you have a lot of people that go to big ride events and group rides, charity events, and unfortunately a lot of those folks are inexperienced riders in general, and you can even have experienced riders who are not experienced with riding with a big group. So there's always the caution, and I don't want to detract anybody from going on a large group ride or a benefit ride, because like I said, they're always a lot of fun, raises money for a good cause. I go to a lot of stuff that I support, so it is always a good time. But you have to use caution with people in these rides, like I said, especially if they are inexperienced. If they're inexperienced, they don't know how to hold tight in that group ride. They may waver from side to side. Always a good idea when you're on a group ride to ride in a little bit of a staggered formation if you have somebody like that is near you. That way you have a little extra room just in case. Okay, number 6 on the list is an important one to know. You should always have a road captain and a tail gunner on your ride. It doesn't matter if it's a large ride event or a smaller group ride. You should always have somebody who is a road captain leading the ride, hopefully familiar with the route. A good road captain will always go do a pre-ride on something like that, especially a large benefit event where you're going to have a large number of motorcycles going on the ride. That prep work is so important. Allows you to know traffic conditions, road conditions, if there's any construction, gravel in the road, all those things become important. So hopefully you have a good road captain, and usually most times you have an experienced road captain up front. Now your tail gunner is also important at the end of the ride, because that is your person that is going to be following the ride at the end. And in most rides, they are a road captain as well, so they have lots of riding experience and experience leading rides. So they're going to be able to watch how that ride goes. Especially in small rides, it's easier to have a road captain and a tail gunner. And like a lot of times when we ride on group rides, together we have cardos, so we have communication systems So if I'm leading a ride, I can talk to the tail gunner at the back and know that everybody's okay, everybody's made a turn, if anybody's had any issues. Along with that, and having a road captain and a tail gunner, you should always have some form of safety briefing if you're doing a group ride with people that you don't normally ride with. Now, if you're out riding with the same 6 or 8 buddies that you always ride with, obviously you guys are familiar with one another and you don't need that, because we don't do that either. However, if you are riding with a group of folks that you've never ridden with, or it's a large group, it is always a good idea to have a quick safety meeting, go over any issues with the routes, you know, getting to and from the location that you're going to. And always important to review hand signals, which brings me to number 7. Hand signals, super important in a group ride. Not everybody uses a communication system, and if you have hundreds of motorcycles in a group, obviously I guarantee you everybody's not going to have a comm system, so you're not going to be able to communicate with that many people at all. So hand signals, good old-fashioned biker 101. Hand signals are a great way to be able to communicate. There are standard hand signals that are out there by the Motorcycle Safety Foundation, and those hand signals are the most commonly used and most commonly known. However, it is always a good idea to have that review before the ride so everybody understands what the hand signals mean. Like I said, if you have people who are inexperienced riders, they may not know hand signals, and if you have people who haven't ridden in a group before, they're probably not used to or aware of hand signals. So it never hurts to review them, helps keep everybody safe and understanding of what's happening during the ride. Okay, number 8 on the list is an important thing that you need to discuss on the ride, and it depends on what kind of ride that you go on. But when you come up to a stop sign, you know, is everybody going to proceed through? Is everybody going to stop independently? In a lot of states, you are required to stop at a stop sign in any type of vehicle that you are in. So when you go on a group ride, and I know it's common practice when you're on a group ride, if you have a group, especially a small group, and you come up to a stop sign, that everybody goes through. It's one of those things that a lot of times is overlooked. However, know what the rules and regulations are where you live so that you don't get yourself in trouble. But always a good idea to have an understanding of what that expectation is when you deal with stop signs or stop lights. Now, stoplights are a little bit different than a stop sign, because usually a stoplight is at a bigger intersection where traffic control is necessary. So if you are having a ride and you're going to be proceeding through traffic lights, are you going to have people or vehicles blocking the intersection for you as you go through? That sometimes can create some confusion with cars, so there's a danger there. So you got to make sure that that expectation is laid out ahead of time so that everybody in the group knows whether you're going to stop or go. Which brings me to number 9, and that is braking. Braking is always a big consideration when you are on a group ride. And, you know, along with that rubber band effect that I talked about a little while ago, you know, that ride is going to be speeding up and it's going to be slowing down at several points during the ride. And when that ends up happening, you're going to get that rubber band effect, and you're going to have to end up braking at some point, and you may be braking harder than normal. So you got to be cognizant of braking and space when you are out there in that group. It never fails. Every time I go on a ride and you get that rubber band effect, there's a lot of people that don't know how to brake properly. They're not watching and paying attention to the road. A lot of times when you go on group rides, people are out on the road, you're waving, having a good time. There's a lot of motorcycles, a lot of noise, and it's a lot of fun, but it distracts people, And of course, when the ride is slowing down, you have issues with people bumping into one another, and that creates a major problem for continuing the ride. So be aware of your braking habits, be aware of people braking in front of you. I always spend the first few minutes when I go on a ride kind of just watching how people in front of me are reacting to the ride and how they're braking. Kind of gives me an idea of how things are going to go during the ride. And of course, with braking, brings me to number 10. And number 10 is my favorite part on the list of group rides to talk about, and that is police escorted rides. If you have never been on a police escorted ride, they're even way more fun than going on a normal ride, because when you're on a police escorted ride, typically when you leave and you put your feet up, you normally don't put your feet down until you get to your location. So with a police escorted ride, every single one that I have been to, there are police cars. A lot of times there are police motorcycles that are involved, especially here in the South. Motor units are a big thing. So when you have that safety brief at the beginning of the ride, a lot of times the motor officer guys will explain what is going on. If you are on a police escorted ride, have an awesome time. They're super fun. Like I said, if you haven't been on one, you gotta go. They're a blast. Now, same rules apply, same inherent dangers. However, typically with a police escorted ride, you're not gonna have a significant amount of braking. A lot of times when you have these police escorted rides, they have experience in how fast or how slow to start that ride off and lead that ride, and they usually go pretty smooth. So you shouldn't have any significantly dynamic braking situations as a general rule. That doesn't mean it can't happen, but they usually typically go a lot smoother. Now, the biggest thing I'm going to tell you, if you have a police escorted ride, you have motor officers that are doing the ride. Typically the police cars will take different routes to get to places to block intersections, and you'll have police motors that are with you on the ride leading the whole way. You typically have the same two officers up front leading, and then you'll have another group of officers. They will peel off and block smaller intersections and stuff. Those guys will slingshot the ride when you are out there. So if you are riding on the left side of the lane, make sure you are aware of that. The first time that I went on a police escorted ride, I knew it was going to happen, but it still kind of scares the shit out of you when somebody just comes up ripping in oncoming traffic and they're ripping by you, and you know, sometimes have siren on. So just be cognizant of that when you are riding, especially, like I said, if you are in the left part of the lane, they're going to be ripping by doing the slingshot. Now, along with that, one pro tip is when these guys are slingshotting, they may run into a situation where they have to tuck into the ride. So if they're coming up alongside of you and they have to tuck in, make sure that you give them a little bit of room to tuck in until they can safely get back out and around. So guys, hopefully today was a good review. For some of you, knock that rust off a little bit, get reacclimated to group riding. If you're new to group riding, hopefully I gave you a good tip that you can use. If you have some other tips that you would like to share for group riding that I didn't specifically cover, I'm sure there are several that are out there. Please leave that down in a comment below and share with the rest of the group so we can learn. I always love hearing other tips and tricks that people have. It's half the fun that I like in those comments. I hope you enjoyed today's content. If you did, please consider hitting that like, share, subscribe button for me and help the channel grow. I always appreciate everybody's support, and I thank you for stopping back by and hanging out with us here on Riding Free. Until next time, guys, ride safe, enjoy your life and make the most of it. It's the only one you got. And don't forget, give a salute, nod, handshake, or a thank you to people that allow us to be out riding free. Until next time, we'll catch you later.